Linda Fox. I'm in the PhocusWire studio and I'm with Henrik Kjellberg from Awaze. Keep thinking vacation rentals, but that was last year.
Yes.
So let's start with that. Almost a year ago, you rebranded European Vacation Rentals, which is a whole lot of brands, including Host Seasons, and you became Awaze. At the time, you said further growth anticipated, mergers and acquisitions. So talk me through, what you've been thinking since then.
So it's been a busy year. We have made 3 acquisitions in the last year. We've had organic growth, and we've done a lot of just restructuring, hiring new people in, bringing excellent talent to the team. Mm-hmm. So yeah, it's been a good year, a busy year.
And can you talk a bit more about those acquisitions? What gaps were they filling?
So we tend to look at, we've had one that we completed last year, Finca Mallorca. So we have the best and the biggest actually property manager in Mallorca, which is a key destination for lots of Europeans, a small island in the Mediterranean.
Yep.
We've also done a couple of acquisitions in the UK, smaller ones, tuck in regions where we weren't as strong. So the real purpose is to really help us get houses inventory in areas where we want to keep growing and where we may not have a strong base.
And do you still see you have gaps, geographical gaps, or perhaps other niche type properties?
Yeah, I think there is a lot of opportunity still in Europe. I think there's something like 4 million homes that are being used as vacation rental. Of those, we have 110,000. Now, maybe not all are used, so let's say 1 million of those are managed, but still that, we have like 10% of the available inventory, if that. So we're very strong in Denmark, Croatia, Spain, UK, more to do, I think, in France, Germany, Benelux as well. So yeah, there's plenty of opportunity.
Okay. Now, the other thing you talked about was developing technology, both for your hosts and for your guests. Again, have you been doing that? What have you done in that space? And also, I was thinking, there's a lot of technology out there, a lot of startups in technology. Why wouldn't you just bring in some kind of third-party help on that side?
So we're doing a mix of building in-house and bringing, and also using third parties. We don't necessarily have a not invented here syndrome. So if I can get something that's already available, that'd be great. In terms of technology, what we have done is we are now launching our owner portal in the UK. We're also doing a bunch of technology behind the scenes, which doesn't necessarily immediately help the owners or guests, but actually do a lot of enablement. And we've doubled the amount of tests and learns we do in the UK, on the UK website. We've done an upgrade and a simplification of the Novasol website. And on Landall, we've done a couple of really interesting projects that have really been more aimed at kind of driving revenue and revenue management for that team. So lots to do still on technology, and probably more heavy lifting left to do than I had expected coming in.
Sure.
But yeah, we're on that journey. We have a CTO hired, head of product coming in 2 weeks.
Is that heavy lifting to do with the fact that you've got all those sort of disparate brands and you're bringing in more?
Yeah, it's partly related to the disparate brands, but partly also related to the fact that we have beautiful old brands, but that comes with beautiful old platforms. And chipping away at those is actually, there's a benefit in some areas because you can now move to the cloud relatively quickly in some areas, but you do need to do it in a coordinated way. You have to sort of make sure that the right hand knows what the left hand is doing, and but that, on top of that, because we were part of a carve out, we've had to replace HR system, finance system, data warehouse, pricing system, not necessarily things I would have done
but
on my own volition.
It's hygiene stuff, isn't it?
But we had to, because there was a time limit to when we could, still
keep borrowing that
stuff, and we were on the clock.
Okay, so does Oyo coming into Europe, does it worry you? Does it impact your ability to grow?
I think it's inevitable that we are going to see more interest from big players and Oyo coming in. I mean, we already had, in terms of what they're doing, we had a good competitor in Athleisure. Our job is to make owners and guests super happy. And if we do that, hopefully we'll take away the owners from our competitors and the guests.
Does it become an owner's market? If Oyo is chasing them, you're chasing them, maybe Airbnb is chasing them?
I think it's more of an owner's market today than it was 5-10 years ago, because I think there's more options. Now, I still think what we see is a lot of people who try the do-it-yourself come back afterwards to have it managed, because there's a lot of work to do if you do it yourself. So Oyo doesn't necessarily change the competitive situation. It puts a bit more attention to the space, and we intend to give them a
A
good run for the money, yes.
So is the impact on the consumer, is that a good thing? Of more players, more brands?
Great question. So I think the internet has been amazing for the consumer. Just in general, you can whether it's OTA or it's us or pictures, but as a consumer, you want to have more information.
Yeah.
And as an owner as well, for that matter. Who are the guests coming?
But it's also kind of fragmented.
What do you mean?
The information, the pictures, it's kind of too much.
I disagree. I think there is no such thing as too much content. I mean, people have an insatiable appetite for, if you do 30 photos, you can add another 30.
I suppose,
and if you add another 30, it converts better. And if you add drone photography, it converts even better. And if you have virtual 3D floor plans, which we're starting to introduce, it also adds. So for consumers, this would have been a very hard category to push 10, 20 years ago. It's now a much easier category to push because not only do you have the information in terms of content, you also have things like reviews that help give consumers more information in terms of what they're buying. And I think it helps companies such as ours who are responsible. We know that the house is there. We've worked in these regions. We know the region well, so we care about not just the house, but also the municipality.
Okay. So there's a lot generally going on in vacation rental. So is it a hard job separating the noise? Is it a hard job staying focused on your business and what you're doing and not getting caught up in what others are doing? And likewise for your staff, for your general company culture.
I think as part of the job of the CEO is always to make sure the team stays focused. It's easy to get distracted, not just because of the category. It's just general. People have blinking lights. Oh, let me, And,
100 million funding here and something else
so
there.
It doesn't bother me at all. The funding, I think, is a good sign that the category is growing. And for me, the fundamentals still apply. What are we doing today and tomorrow to make the owners a little bit happier? And what can we do to make that guest experience superb? And if you I'm not trying to sound like Pollyanna, of course there's more money coming in, etc. But if you keep focusing on the basics, those companies will tend to do relatively better and sometimes people who receive a lot of money can also be distracted.
Sure.
And can be pushed in different ways. So I take all competition seriously, but you don't want to be defined by your competitors. You want to be defined by, what is it we're doing today to make owners and guests happier. And again, we use the word guests. We never use consumers or customers. It's a guest, and you have that hospitality thinking.
Yes.
I think is really important.
And just staying on that, the idea of alternative accommodation at the moment and the amount of venture capital that's coming into it, do you see it as a bubble?
Timely question given the valuations of WeWork, etc. that's happened, and you have these Vision Fund. So is there a risk of an inflation in some of the valuation? Yes. There could definitely be. Is it a bubble? I don't know, because we're also knowing that this category is one which it's a really interesting category. You have a lot of players wanting to get in. It takes a lot of time to build up the skills and the supply network that we have on a European basis, and other players have as well. So, look, I understand valuations. I'm not a financier by heart. When Facebook bought Instagram for 1 billion, people thought that was a bubble. That was probably a really good one.
Sure.
So history will tell us if it's a bubble. But if I look at the macro picture of some of the huge valuations that have happened in other categories, yes, at that level there may be.
It does feel like it. I mean, I suppose one of the things I was thinking was that how does it shape out? Because it does seem as if we might be heading for a global turndown, and if that's the case, then some of this isn't sustainable. The amount of companies isn't sustainable. So therefore, do we then go into a period of consolidation? Do you think that will happen quite quickly?
I think consolidation will probably happen regardless over time.
Right.
There's just complementarity in terms of what different companies do. I think the downturn for this sector, I think, will probably be less impactful than maybe others because this is stay close to home.
Yeah.
Lower price point.
Now, sort of value proposition.
The value proposition now are people maybe instead of taking 4 or 5 short-term breaks a year, maybe they take 3 or 4, so maybe they cut down. But I don't think we're going to see a huge kind of downturn for this category. I think we'll be pretty resilient even if there's a downturn.
Okay. Now, the terrible recent incident in the US, the shooting, does that put pressure on everyone to, have a look at their safety measures to make sure that they're, all in place? Or is it just, do you think, a factor of the sort of peer-to-peer side of things?
I think, horrible event. We take pride in having visited all of our houses, making sure they're safe and fit for consumers. And we go back to them in many cases as well. But look, freak accidents or not accidents or events can happen. So I'm not going to pin that down on a specific competitor saying they were responsible or irresponsible. I say, these things could, you could be unlucky. And in our category, we have, as an industry, there's pools and there's events that happen in pools, and every year I get a couple of bad phone calls of accidents that have happened, and we take that very seriously. Sure. But it's very hard to monitor, and we're very, very careful with how we put signage up, etc. But human beings on vacation,
things happen.
Things happen.
Is it because it's Airbnb? I mean, I don't want to take away from the seriousness of the event, the incident at all. But is it because it's Airbnb that the impact becomes, because there's a company that's about to float, they're being scrutinised so closely? Do you think that that's a factor in it?
It may, yes. I think that's a factor. It's like anything to do with Uber, right. It sort of gets because they've been companies that magnified, or these companies that have had. That are in many respects great companies, and they've changed a lot of how we, Airbnb, we work with Airbnb. It's also a competitor in some situations, but they've helped the category because people are now open to. So it's it's been a tailwind,
Sure.
At large for us. So I think when these companies who have changed how consumers operate, when things go wrong, whether it be a death by an autonomous vehicle
Sure.
or not, it gets a lot of scrutiny, and rightly so. And I also think that we as an industry, we should focus on how can we get better?
Yes, exactly.
Are there other things we can do to sort of
because you're judged on how you dealt with that particular thing.
Well, the having been a maybe less regulated part of the industry for a long time, you kind of it was a freer days 10 years ago.
Right.
It was a smaller industry.
Yeah.
Now we're getting to be part of the real accommodation
growing
industry. Growing up, and as you grow up, well, there's going to be more regulation. We have a lot of regulation in Europe, taxation, and then you also get viewed in terms of health and safety. Is it in Spain, for example, Mallorca, you need to have a license to rent the house out, and you have to apply at the local government, and you pay actually quite a steep fee, but that's because they want to protect the island from over-tourism.
Yes.
And so I think that's a good thing, and I think it benefits the companies who act responsibly. But yes, you have to grow up, and we should be asking ourselves, what can we do to become better still?
So then, if you could wave a wand and just fix something in the industry, what would it be?
I would, in Europe, I would have more transparency on the regulations coming in. It's a real pain point for us when local municipalities add per person fees that vary, or it's age fees in another municipality. It puts a lot of pressure on our back-end systems.
Okay.
Where we have to retrofit things in order to be compliant and legal.
So how could that be kind of sorted?
So I think for example, very clearly at national European level, these things should be mandated.
Yeah.
Here's how we will tax the industry. Here's what it. But if you do it on a local, regional, or even municipal level, it becomes really, really hard.
Yeah.
And also to have us abide by some of the same regulations that the hotel industry has, like we have to check passports. We don't have a front desk.
Yeah.
Like there are electronic solutions today for a lot of these things. So I'm not saying we should definitely be compliant. We should pay our taxes.
Yeah.
But could we be more? Could it be a more transparent field? As opposed to every local village in Catalonia coming up with their own variant. And two is, there's no technology that would really help the industry, and also help the tax collectors. So they'll make more money, and kind of by driving down prices, because it's quite costly to do some of these things.
Okay, final question. Where do you see the next big innovation in travel coming? Don't overthink it. Just
I think there hasn't really been any innovation in travel apart from Airbnb in the last
You wouldn't be the only one to say
15 years.
Yeah.
And I think most people tend to think it's about what you sell on the supply side, but it's really tricky on the demand side. But at the same time, if the travel experience today, if you book something, is a lot better than 10 years ago, but it wasn't sort of a magical thing. It was lots of small things, but booking on your phone today is easy. It used to be a nightmare, right? And so I think the simplicity of it is actually been a major thing. And I think it'll keep it getting simpler and better and more relevant content. And I think that's really cool, but not it's going to be villas for left-handed people who have, blind dogs, right? Or
Cara on stage was just talking about bubbles that get submerged in the sea for luxury, I don't know what, viewing the bottom of the sea, and one of the cruise ships has just bought them. And I mean,
yeah, I'm sure there's going to be like more experiences,
Yeah.
but like, so my thing on travel is, one of the pretty cool thing with travel is that it's one of the few categories where on the inspiration phase, you actually don't want simplicity. I'm going to Japan for Easter with my family. I buy Lonely Planet. I buy maps. Like, I love
Old school.
But like, then I go online, right? And
Yeah.
I check things and I do both. But like, I'm savoring that trip already now.
Yeah.
I don't want a one-click.
No experience.
It's
Okay,
all like,
interesting.
tell me,
Yeah.
like, I want to plan it.
Okay.
Like, and that's not true for all trips, of course. Sometimes you just, I'm going for an overnight stay in London.
Yeah,
Just
that's
give me
more functional.
But like, I kind of think that's kind of fun, and I think that's why some of travel has resisted some of that simplification, because like, you're actually on the inspiration phase. You actually don't want it simple. Or I think a lot of consumers don't want the one-click
sure.
button, which I think is it's kind of nice.
Okay. Henrik, thank you so much for
Thank you
joining
very
us.
much, Linda. Thank you.